The job centre looms large for Rangers boss Russell Martin after the Gers lost at Ibrox against Hearts 2-0, which means it's 5 games without a win in the league for them. So what happened and where do Rangers go from here? Let's dive into it. And give me your views in the comments on what you think is happening at Rangers right now and whether Russell Martin has any chance of sticking around in this job post for much longer. Will he last until October, dare I say? So let me know in the comments below, but let's dive into it. Rangers are in crisis and the focus is firmly set on their boss, Russell Martin. He becomes the first Rangers manager in 47 years to go 5 league games without a victory, and that's a pretty damning stat. Lawrence Shankland's double was what condemned Rangers to defeat, and the toxicity at Ibrox was palpable. When I was catching up with the game, it felt like it was a vicious atmosphere from the Rangers fans. It's fair enough because they've had a horrific start to the season, but it wasn't just the defeat, it was the manner of the performance. Rangers were abysmal in the first half. They did come to life a little bit in the second half, but it's not good enough. And the first goal for Hearts kind of sums up the issues at Rangers. The defence stops. They are appealing for a handball, and while Hearts played on, they then go and score. And that sort of sums up where Rangers are right now. They're very disjointed. The second half was a little bit better for Rangers, but can you really give masses of credit to Russell Martin when the first half was so bad? The second half had to be a little bit better. Gassama hit the post. Oliver Antman tested the goalkeeper. They also had a goal ruled out, but Rangers were, they didn't have ruthlessness. They were poor in front of goal. They were poor in terms of creating chances. Hearts had a better game plan. They looked like the stronger team. And you feel like, the guy in the Hearts dugout might be a better fit for the Rangers job than the guy in the Rangers dugout right now. And at full time, the boos were very, very loud indeed. So, where does this leave Russell Martin? After the draw against Celtic in the Old Firm, he talked about a reset. And I think the hope was from Rangers fans was that was going to be correct, that they'd had a bit of a slow start of the season, but the draw against Celtic showed that they had a little bit of organisation. It was a terrible game, but they managed to sort of squeeze out a point against the best team in the league, it's fair to say. But today was sort of falling back into their old ways of how the start of the season's been. So that means that the reset he's spoken about, it feels like has not happened. And there are also questions about the team selection. Nicholas Raskin was out despite scoring for Belgium in midweek. Big summer signing Yusuf Chermity was also left on the bench until it was too late in the game. And those sort of decisions are why the pressure is growing so much. And the thing is, Rangers fans, yes, they are not known for their patience. We are going to talk about kind of the fan reaction to all this. But the fact of the matter is any fan base would not be happy with this start of the season, particularly with the resources that Rangers have. Take it away from being Rangers Football Club. Just look at the team with the second biggest budget in Scottish football having such a slow start of the season and going out of the Champions League. It is no surprise that the fans are already baying for blood. But I think as well, just as I was about to record this video, Russell Martin spoke in his post-match press conference and he said that he wouldn't quit. He isn't going to resign. Obviously, that's going to rub up a lot of Rangers fans. But what were you expecting him to say, really? He's not going to say, yes, I will leave. I mean, if he was going to resign, he wouldn't be sitting in the press conference, would he? So it's no surprise that he said he wouldn't. I think that Rangers, though, are going to be in a position where it's going to be really hard for them to go on with this situation. It is so toxic right now. How many managers do you see come back from being under such pressure? They've got a game next weekend against Hibernian in the League Cup. It's a massive game. If a defeat were to happen there, that would be silverware going away. The League Cup's a cup that Rangers can win. And it feels like a case of when will Russell Martin be sacked, not if. That's how crucial that game is, if he makes it to that game after their defeat against Hearts today. And now I want to talk about the fan reaction and whether or not it is justified. We touched on that before, but I think Russell Martin already came into Rangers with a bit of a blotchy record. He was at Southampton. He obviously gets them promoted to the Premier League, which was obviously a success. They did do it through the playoffs, though, despite being a parachute payment club. They then get in the Premier League and are woefully unprepared. They played a tactical style that did not work. He ends up leaving Southampton pretty early in the season as they almost set the record for being the worst Premier League team in history and are certainly in the group of the worst ever teams to play in the Premier League. And that is a blotch on Russell Martin's record. So when he comes into Rangers, there is that feeling of a manager whose stock has really tumbled down from where it was. And I think Rangers were hoping that they were buying low on a manager who is going to, shoot back up and re-find who he is. And maybe the time out of the game would have really helped him. And I think Russell Martin was hoping that Rangers, because of the size of the club they are, the resources that they have, would be able to put his name back out there as one of the top young managers. But unfortunately, so far, it feels like that isn't happening. And the fans are the ones that are feeling the brunt of this, because they are the ones who go and support Rangers every week. They've got one of the best fan bases in the world, and those people are not happy right now because they can see that this isn't working right in front of their eyes. And the fans have seen their team crash out of the Champions League. They've seen their team fall to 5 games without a victory. They've seen their team potentially 9 points behind Celtic this early in the season. They're already 9 points behind Hearts, who beat them at Ibrox today. This is not good enough for a Rangers team that have spent a lot of money. They've got a lot of resource and have expectations as being one of the biggest and best clubs in Scotland. They expect to be competing at the top of the league. And I don't think Rangers fans necessarily were demanded that they won the title this season, because they know that Celtic have got them years behind them of just churning out trophies because of all the issues that have happened at Rangers in the past. But Rangers were just hoping that that gap would close to the point where they could really challenge Celtic. And already, we're only in September, it feels like that has gone. So I understand why the fans are so vociferously against Russell Martin. We saw today how angry the fan base was. The Hearts fans are singing "You're getting sacked" in the morning. The Rangers fans are joining back in. And when it reaches this point, it's really, really hard to see a comeback. He also said in his post-game that the players train really well all week, and then it gets to the game and it sort of all falls apart. And he said that the environment is very difficult. And to me, that's almost a backhanded way of saying that the supporters at Rangers are creating an issue for his team, and that they need to get behind the team more rather than being on their backs from minute one. And while there might be merit to that, I certainly know from watching football games that a crowd that is on the edge and expecting failure can be very, very difficult for players on the pitch, because one pass goes astray and the crowd will turn. If it's the other way and you've got a club where everyone's pulling in the same direction, you don't see that happening. So I can kind of see where he's coming from with the difficult environment, but he's a Rangers manager. He's not managing a team that has no expectation. He's managing one of the biggest clubs in the world, and he should expect that his teams have to go out there and be prepared for the games. He should know that the environment is going to be the way that it is, and he should have his players prepared for that. And that is his job as the manager of this football club. So my verdict on this and whether or not Russell Martin will stay. And look, we saw a Football Insider story last week that we talked about on this channel, talking about Russell Martin's future and the fact that Rangers are already lining up a replacement. I think when the tide turns so heavily on a manager, and it feels like the majority of the fan base are already done with Russell Martin, it is so hard to turn that back around. I can't think of any occasion really off the top of my head where a manager has had such a vociferously angry support at him and wanting him out of the club and see them turn it around. It just doesn't happen very often, and the fans have decided in their droves that Russell Martin's not the right man to continue this. And when you are seeing what's happening on the pitch, it is really hard to disagree with that fan base. And I think if you were in the board at Ibrox and you were making these decisions, you would have to take into account the fan reaction and just go, do you know what, even though we're very early into this Russell Martin experiment, maybe it's time to pull the plug on it already, because Rangers are in danger of letting the season slip away from them in September. There's an argument that they've probably already let it slip away from them at this point, certainly when it comes to the league, already out the Champions League. They have to make a decision now. I think Rangers fans would love to see somebody else come in. I don't know if Rangers will necessarily pull the trigger, but maybe by the time this video comes out, a decision could be made there. But let me know what you think in the comments of the situation at Rangers, whether or not Russell Martin has any chance of turning this back around, and we'll catch you very soon for another Football Insider video.